Hi, how you doing? Get a hope. I just wanted to share with you a book that I've had for many, many years and hardly ever looked at it. In fact, this picture book, I was still in the first chapter of it and wasn't not greatly interested. But thinking back, pictures weren't that interesting to me in my younger days. But I always like to take pictures of my kids and loved ones, and that's pretty much all I did. And I can remember after reading some of the history, and there's so much history in it, that when I was little, one of the first books that comes out with pictures of a fetus in a womb was at my house, and I found it one day when I was really little and just started looking at it, and my mom caught me and took it away from me and hid it in the top of the closet. Well, I snuck back in there later and got it down and looked at it and got in trouble again. She hid it somewhere else. We weren't even allowed to look at things like that when we were little bitty. So apparently kids are being taught younger and younger now than when they used to be, but yet they want to keep us dumbed down. That doesn't make any sense. I guess it's sociology things that they want to keep us dumbed down about, as well as political and law. And the name of this book is The Body: Photographs of the Human Form by William A. Ewing. And it does have some strange pictures in it. Here's one of the first ones. I guess what that is. Doesn't really say. There are some strange pictures in here for sure. I got so engrossed in it, I read the whole thing in just a couple of days. In the preface it says, "Why is it today that the human body is at the center of so much attention? Why are magazines, newspapers, television, and advertisements saturated with images of naked or virtually naked bodies? Why are so many writers, artists, and photographers so profoundly concerned with the subject? And why in all this do we discern a rising tide of unease, even panic? Is it, as many believe, the scourge of AIDS which fuels the concern, or perhaps the disembodiment implicit in the computer age? Is it, as some academics maintain, that the body, as we have come to understand it, no longer exists? Or could it even be that the body is merely in fashion? What puts the body squarely in the center of debate is not fashion, but urgency. The body is being rethought and reconsidered by artists and writers because it is being restructured and reconstituted by scientists and engineers. In an era when parts can be routinely detached from one body and plugged into another, when the U.S. National Institute of Health offered to replace corpses in medical schools with industry standard digital cadavers, when certain machines can appropriate the functions of human organs while others are invested with intelligence, when the life of the body can be prolonged, when the mind has ceased to function, when genetic change can be engineered and human beings cloned, when a fetus can be nurtured in an artificial womb or jobbed out to a surrogate mother, when we entrust automatons to land our jets or perform operations on our bodies, when the New York Times informs us that, contrary to what most of us had believed, there are 3, 4, or possibly 5 genders, when we capriciously rebuild faces, breasts, or thighs to conform to the moment's ideal of beauty, and when we dream of Robocops, Terminators, and replicants, and long to live in a virtual reality, when concepts and definitions, values and beliefs, rights and laws must be radically overhauled." And this is really some good writing to go with some of these pictures. And here's a strange picture on the front. Yeah, that's weird enough. Oh, the light's shining on it. Politicians and ideologues of all persuasions have used photography to put forward visions of perfect bodies as emblems of their own conceptions of a healthy body politic. Pornographers, too, have long understood that the lure of sexually explicit photographs, but the same images are held up by feminists as proof of male domination and insensitivity. In and of itself, photography professes no morality and no allegiance. Yes, I can remember back when there was just pictures of women's naked bodies that would have an underground sale. And in the introduction, in the autumn of 1879, a series of articles appeared in the Photographic News, an influential British journal, on the subject of great fascination to the Victorians, the Zulus of South Africa. These articles are remarkably revealing not only of British perception of non-Western peoples, but of 19th century attitudes generally to the human body. Directly or indirectly, they illuminate a whole range of issues highly significant for Victorian England. Notions of race, concepts of beauty, sexuality, and man's animal nature. See, I knew it. I knew men had an animal nature. Beliefs about decency and morality and the distinction between savagery and civilization, assumptions about social class, and even the rightful place of the body in arts and science. Oh, if you could only see all these pictures in this book. I don't know if you can see this one, it's awfully small. He's got pins in his hand. I don't know if you can see that or not. Uh-oh. Wow, it's weird. They do have some strange pictures in here. And in the one called Estrangement, mankind which in Homer's time was an object of contemplation for the Olympic gods, now is one for itself. Its self-alienation has reached such a degree that it can experience its own destruction as an aesthetic pleasure of the first order. By Walter Benjamin, Illuminations, 1936. The stream of genetic knowledge which began to flow in the 1970s has now reached the proportions of a deluge. Within our lifetimes, we can expect to see the full genetic blueprint of the human body. The implications, moral and ethical, social and political, are bewildering. Human beings are gradually being given the tools to alter the natural order, to reinvent themselves. There are already reports of parents aborting fetuses which do not conform to the desired genetic profile, and talk about designer babies and clones is not merely speculative. Not surprisingly, a certain alienation or estrangement is committed with these new realities. The body that we read or hear about in the news is necessarily a generalized construct and abstraction. But each of us remains firmly enveloped in a specific body, subject to its own idiosyncratic dynamics and strengths and weaknesses. There may be a tantalizing future for the universal body of youth and vitality restored to the aged, of vastly extended lifespans, of a range of improvements hitherto relegated to the realm of science fiction, but ultimately each person has to confront his or her own corporate reality. This discrepancy must always be a source of great anxiety for the individual, because at its root is a certain knowledge of eventual death.